Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the P365 in this video, and this one is going to be going over doing the polishing of the OEM internals for the slide assembly, similar to what I did in the lower fire control unit, just to aid in better trigger feel, better functionality, better reliability, all that fun stuff. So that being said, I am going to get this camera mounted up and start walking through what I'm going to do. So first thing is going to be the actual firing pin slash striker. There's a very small spring on here you'll have to remove. This goes, so kind of holds it up against the inside of the cup that's in the slide. But I'm going to remove that, and what I want to do is I'm going to just lightly polish with the flitz, similar to what I did on all the other lower parts, any of the outer surfaces that would possibly rub anything inside the slide, as well as inside the cup that this sits in. And then also down here, this is the area that engages the sear in the lower fire control unit. And you'll feel this with your finger. This is going to feel rough, similar to how the sear felt before you polished it. What we want to do is smooth this out, similar to what we did with the sear. Again, you're not removing any material. You're not sanding, grinding, or anything. You're just going to do a light polish on it with a little bit of flitz and a polishing wheel, just to smooth it out and help with, a little less friction and a little bit better function and better trigger feel. So that is the first thing I'm going to work on, is the firing pin. All right, and here we are. You can see everything's got a nice little shine to it. Pretty happy with how it turned out. Again, not trying to make these things perfect. These are kind of, they're not the best of parts quality. You can tell I think they're MIM or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a textured finish. But now at least the areas that are outward and exposed, like all these raised edges here, all around here, I polished those, and then all along here. And again, the main area you're concerned with is this area here, because that is what is going to engage the sear right there. So you'll feel, and you kind of want to test, and you'll feel that there's really no friction, and when it's holding and you pull the trigger, it releases nice and smooth. So that was the goal with the firing pin. The pin itself, pretty happy with how it turned out. Didn't really do anything on the actual pin portion itself. It was more just along here, the areas that have to slide inside their channel. So that part's done. On to the next. All right, next on the list, I'm going to go over the safety. This is the firing pin safety. Same thing, I'm just going to kind of make sure everything's nice and smooth along the edges where this would rub inside the slide, as well as over here where the actual bar that pops up from the trigger mechanism and fire control unit would engage this. So just again, going over it a little bit, smoothing it out, making sure there's no rough spots, and then I'll go ahead and have this ready to reinstall. All right, I'm going over everything with the polisher, much more smooth. You don't feel any texture or anything going all the way around the sides. I even did inside the curve here where it actually would be engaging or disengaging from the firing pin, and then especially over the ramp here, which this is what the safety bar that pushes up on it runs over, so that's nice and smooth as well, so there won't be any hang-ups there. So that part is done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the extractor. This, I'm not going to do anything on the outward edge. This is what's visible on the side of the slide. What I'm going to do is this side here, and then clean up a little bit on the inside, because this is where it's going to be rubbing up against the actual slide itself, and you can feel it's a pretty, it's got some texture to it. So I just want to smooth out that texture a little bit, just make sure this is moving and in and out the way it's supposed to, and there's no hang-ups or anything like that. So I'm going to grab the flitz and the polisher and go over this real quick, and I'll be back once complete. All right, and here we go. It doesn't look much different, but if you run your finger over it, you'll feel it's just a lot less draggy, and that's all I was looking for. Just, smoother finish. I did both sides, like I said, and then along here, this area, because these are, the areas that sit inside the slide assembly and are going to have to, pivot. So it's minimal. They don't, take too much time on it, but just, clean it up a little bit, give it a smoother polish or a smoother finish, and it should, be a little bit better as far as function goes. So that is it as far as the slide mechanics that I'm going to be messing with. Everything else is either plastic, or I'm not too worried about it. It's not going to have an impact. The last thing I want to do is on the barrel itself. I'm just going to do a little bit of light finish work or polish work on the feed ramp and inside the actual chamber here. This is actually pretty well polished from the factory, so it's not going to take much work. Some are worse than others, but the finish on this barrel is pretty good. So I'm just going to do a little light touch-up area for the feed ramp and inside the chamber itself, and then we'll call the polish work done. All right, and here it is. Like I said, not much needed, but I just wanted to make sure that this was going to be nice and smooth. I don't feel anything that's going to catch. There's no drag whatsoever if you run your finger over it. And same thing, I just did a light cleanup in the actual chamber portion of the barrel. Nothing too crazy, but just a little polish on it. Make sure everything is going to function properly and there's no hang-ups or anything. But like I said, this barrel was pretty good out of the box. It didn't feel like it was draggy or anything like that. But that is it as far as the polishing work that I'm going to do goes. You could, I guess, if you wanted to, work on the slide itself a little bit and do a little polishing, in the areas where these parts go into place. But in looking at the machine finish and feeling the finish on the slide, it's not as bad as the individual parts were. So I'm really not that worried about it. I think, items like such as the extractor, they're going to fit in no problem. I mean, it's a nice and smooth operation. I don't feel it hanging up or anything like that when, manipulating it. Goes into place, no problem. So not too worried about that. So I think that is as far as I'm going to go with the polishing. So that being said, I'm going to end the video here. Next video I put out will be reassembling all of these components, getting the slide back together, and then putting the actual firearm together for the last time. That'll include all of proper lubrication, all that fun stuff. So if you want to follow along, if you like what you're seeing, please hit like. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Subscriptions are appreciated. They definitely help with the algorithm and all that fun stuff. I do have a second channel related to automobiles and Jeeps. If you want to check that out, there is a link in the description below. Also have a Rumble channel related to firearms. A lot of the same stuff's going to be there. So if you prefer Rumble, check it out. I'd appreciate it if you would become a follower there as well. And that being said, thank you very much for watching and have a great day.